What's up gamers, Dreamcastguy here, and this is Top 10 Thursday. In fact, this is actually the very last one in all of 2019. The last year has been very fun, with some big releases, some cool surprises, and some games that kind of really tried to shake up the industry. And now that I've had a chance to talk about my favorites and the games that were total dumpster fires, I want to do something a little bit more unusual, which is I want to talk about the games that you very likely missed. There were things that came out this year that were so freaking special and somehow sold almost to none. So what I'm going to be doing today is talking about some really cool experiences that I managed to beat this year that personally I really enjoyed. So hopefully I can open your eyes to even one more game. Are you ready? Alright, here we go. These are my picks of the top 10 best games in 2019 that you probably forgot. Number 10. Rage 2. It seems like a large majority of shooters these days are so overly serious. They're trying to be about war and chaos and unveil these giant epic stories. And so I kind of admire a game that just tries to bring the fun back to blasting people. Rage 2 does not take itself seriously. It gives us a great color palette, a lot of basic super abilities that let us charge people or explode armor, and it does a lot of things to just kind of be goofy moment to moment. But that is really why I fell in love with it. Whether I was cruising through the desert and trying to compete in racing competitions or just going up to the next super mutant, I always found myself just kind of smiling at the pure simplicity of how good this game is. And unfortunately, it seems like most people didn't bother to pick it up, which is a shame because this is a game that really deserves our attention. Number 9. Mortal Kombat 11. Okay, so this project right here was very surrounded in controversy when it came back in the summer. A lot of people were talking about that it was just so crammed full of microtransactions and loot crates and lots of stuff that people were very upset about. But what's interesting is that after its initial launch, which was admittedly very rocky, the game continued to improve. The developers kept doing things to try and tweak how the underlying systems worked. And on top of that, they've released a ton of very good downloadable content characters that have completely changed the meta. This is one of those games that I think a lot of people picked up, they played it for like 5 days, they beat the campaign, and then they just moved on. And somehow they've managed to miss what truly makes Mortal Kombat 11 such a unique fighter. Number 8. Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3. How is it that nobody is talking about the pure fact that this is easily the best co-op experience we got in all of 2019? Not only is this game an utter blast to play with your friends, but more than that, it has a huge roster of playable characters from all throughout the Marvel Universe. Even really obscure characters are here in their full powered up glory to kick some butt. This is one of those rare games that's just so obviously built with utter passion. Every part of it is just built together with perfect glue for the perfect situation. It's one of those things that I kept wanting to go back again and again and just look at random spots and levels or try a boss fight again with a different combination of abilities, just to try and see all the little intricacies that I may have missed. I'm really glad that this came out, and I think it's one of the things that I've really kind of enjoyed more in the holidays because it's a great game to just sit down and play with people, whether they're strangers or whether they're family. It's just a really freaking tight co-op experience. Number 7. Gears 5. Of all the AAA game releases we saw this year, it seemed like Microsoft was in general the most quiet. Perhaps they're just trying to prepare for the next generation, but it seems like their games just kind of slipped out and kind of beyond notice. And it's really a shame because Gears of War 5 is very, well, it's fresh. It tries to combine a bunch of new ideas, new weapons, and new styles of fighting, but more than that, it almost plays like a tech demo. It's so experimental in its visuals, its art, its sound design, and more than that, just in the way you're trying to blow people apart. Now, I will say that I didn't enjoy this game when it came to the online play as much as I did the previous entries, but I definitely enjoyed the storyline much more. This had a real gravitas, a sense of writing and compassion, and a real sense of feeling that the previous games kind of lacked. They're very clearly trying to lay the groundwork for a future franchise to try and set things up to be as big and beautiful as possible going into the Xbox Series X. And it kind of gets me excited after playing Gears 5 to sort of be curious as to what the heck we're going to see in Gears 6. Number 6. Apex Legends. Now, everything we're talking about in this video today is very, very positive, but I think we need to take a look at the negative, which is the fact that there is a game that everybody is sick of hearing about. Fortnite, Fortnite, Fortnite. It's the biggest game in the world, it makes the most money, it's the thing that all the top streamers are playing nonstop, but I think that most of us are very, very burned out on Fortnite, and that's why, partially, people seem to be very, very enamored with the idea of Apex Legends. This is a spin-off of freaking Titanfall, the mech shooter game, but somehow manages to surpass it in certain aspects. At its core, this is still just your typical battle royale, with jumping out of a plane and trying to soar down to the ground, scampering to get the most weapons and armor as possible, and then defeating all your opponents until you're the last man standing. But where this really manages to diversify itself is that there are these really great super abilities, where each of the characters you play actually serve a role, like being able to put down laser barriers or teleport or detect enemy movement, and it's something that really adds a very important added layer to the gameplay. It makes it where every time you drop in, there's a real personality to your motions, and to me, that is something that definitely needs to be admired and definitely respected. While most people have already tried to quit Apex Legends or they've moved on to other first-person shooters, this is one that I definitely want to give credit for being really, really remarkable. Number 5. Katana Zero. There are certain concepts in storytelling that seem to come up again and again, things like trying to defeat your enemies, or rising to power, or saving your loved ones. These are tropes that we just kind of see because they just work, but something that I think is much more difficult to handle properly is time travel. It seems like a lot of stories that try and have twists and turns in time frame, a lot of times they fall flat, but that's part of why I was very, very just blown away and quite frankly impressed by Katana Zero. So this is a side-scrolling slasher, but the big real element to it that makes it extra cool is that we play as a samurai who is able to rewind and affect time, making it where he's accelerated and his flows are stopped, or he can throw something at like 1,000,000 miles an hour, or if he makes a mistake and is hit by one of these random bullets, he can instantly restart that room. Now this on its own is very amusing to watch, but the real motivation that keeps you playing through this isn't just the cool slashes and great kills, it's the mystery at the heart of it, trying to figure out who we really are, why we're doing this, and how we're going to get out of it, because there is actually some branching paths that allow you to sort of handle what's going to come next. I was extremely into Katana Zero. Number 4. Fire Emblem Three Houses. Maybe it's just me, but it seemed like 2019 was a little bit more of a downtrodden year. It seemed like a bunch of the big game studios are trying to finish up secret projects or preparing for what's coming next. And so when we randomly got Fire Emblem Three Houses, I'll admit that I was very, very shocked. This is a gymongous game that you can play for hundreds and hundreds of hours and never see the same thing twice. Now, this is on the surface just a turn-based strategy game, but there's so many extra pieces to it, from communicating to your brethren, or seeing all the different storyline dialogue options, or just trying to do some random side tactics on the field itself. Of all the RPGs I played this year, from indie to AAA, this is the one that blew me away by far the most. In fact, I still see people on Twitter to this day talking about how they're doing another run through it, where Fire Emblem just offers them so much value they cannot set it down. And honestly, I can totally understand that. Number 3. World of Warcraft Classic. There were a few titles that came out this year that seemed to have left gamers completely baffled because they just didn't really know how to even explain it. And WoW Classic is certainly an example of that, because this isn't really a remake. It's not quite a remaster. Instead, it is basically just a fancy re-release of a 15-year-old MMORPG, and yet somehow it has exploded, getting millions of fans instantly. But what's interesting is, to me, I've just been so hooked on it. I I have over 1,000 hours played just since it came out. This is by far the game that I've logged the most time into in all of 2019 because I love trying to hunt down enemy players and get gear and run dungeons and see all this interesting lore. While it is technically an outdated piece of tech, it's fascinating to see the giant community that's amassed around it. I do think that there's going to be a bunch of psychologists studying this for years to see the power of nostalgia versus just raw, good gameplay. Do I think that Classic will last forever? Probably not, but for now, it is a very interesting living time capsule. Number 2. World War Z. Yep, I gotta put this one in the video simply because it is so freaking addictive. This is basically just Left 4 Dead 3. Yeah, I'm saying it. This is not an original experience. It's not trying to reinvent itself. It is basically just Left 4 Dead 3. But in that way, I am totally okay with it. It's very loosely based on the book of the same name by Max Brooks. And while I am a huge fan of the novel, this game really rises to new heights by just basically bringing in this very visceral fear. These zombies run, and I mean jog at about 55 miles an hour. But not only that, they swarm. One of the major things they've done is come up with this sort of tech that allows hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of zombies to be on the screen simultaneously, but moving independently, to become almost a giant horde of hungry ants that are swarming towards you. And it makes it where at the end of each of these missions, when you have times where you're trying to defend a choke point or fly away in a helicopter, it creates a real sense of fear that if you make one mistake, you're going to be eaten alive. But more than that, it's just really cool to see so many different environments. I feel like so many of the zombie things we see, especially here in the US, are based in America. We see the same shopping malls or deserted forests. It's nice to see a zombie game that takes us randomly to places like Japan, so we can see how different people would deal with a horrible apocalypse like this. I utterly loved this game, and I didn't expect I would. To this day, it blows my mind that everybody has completely overlooked this. So many times I'm talking to people like random subscribers and they ask, what's a game I got super into this year that nobody's really mentioning? And I always have to bring up World War Z. This game is on sale all the freaking time. And if you have some friends that you want to log in and blast some undead with, this is the penultimate experience for you. Number 1. Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. There's a hard lesson to learn in life that sometimes you don't realize that you're missing something until it's already gone. And for fans of Castlevania, we've had a very deep yearning for years and years and years for something to try and fill that gap. A new Metroidvania that would give us a chance to explore and blow up stuff and get collectibles again and level up weaponry. But now that has finally returned. Bloodstained Ritual of the Night is made by a lot of the people behind the original fantastic Castlevanias. But in my opinion, it almost manages to transcend that with a gorgeous new style of graphics, some really good art, and lots of monsters for us to smash with our whip. This game continually blew me away as I discovered each and every secret, from side passageways to extra abilities that could transform my character. This is a game that begs you to beat it again and again. But more than that, it is incredibly impressive that this is actually a Kickstarter project. It was funded by the fans, for the fans, and it absolutely delivered. Even now, I'm still just kind of in shock that this managed to be such a huge surpassing of expectations. To everybody who helped make this game real, you guys are freaking heroes. And that's why I'm giving it my pick as the most fun game that unfortunately will probably be forgotten. Did your favorite game not make the list? Got an idea for a future top 10? Leave it in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all and keep dreaming. I've been very sick this week. I'm sure some of you'll hear it. Maybe it's just my own ears. I feel like my voice sounds different, so I apologize. I'm getting a lot better, and I'm getting better fast. I'm just kind of in that weird part where I'm still a little bit sick. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.